Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave McCauley, and on behalf of everyone on the Incubator team, I'd like to welcome you to another in our series of Think Tank webinars. Most importantly, thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedules to join us for today's open discussion on the exciting topic of AI. Before we get started, we just wanted to explain our format for today. Our goal today is to make this as relaxed and as open as a discussion as possible. So please feel free to ask questions, submit questions. We can make this as productive as possible. With us to help guide our today's discussion from Incubator are John Montenegro, our Director of UX and Design.
Hello.
And Sujal, hello, John. And Sujal Raju, our CEO and founder.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see everyone.
Welcome to you both. First, though, we would just want to let everyone know we are recording this session, and we'll edit and post it as a part of our Think Tank webinar series. And as mentioned, we want this to be a relaxed, casual, open discussion on today's topic of generative AI. Please treat it as an open discussion, or if you'd like, please raise your hand and we'll make sure you are able to participate. As I mentioned, I'm part of the Incubator webinar team here. I'm joined along with Jada Marcante on as well to help out on the technical end. So between the two of us, we'll make sure your questions get answered. So however you want to participate, that's up to you, but we hope to have you all join in as much as possible for today's discussion. You will also have access to the Q&A feature of the webinar, so feel free if you want to jot down any questions you might have using that method, and we'll make sure we get everyone's questions answered or addressed. All right, before we get going, as mentioned, we do have Sujal and John here from Incubator. We'd like to have each of them, our discussion leaders, say a quick hello and give us an introduction of themselves. Sujal, if you'd like to go first.
Sounds good, Dave. Thank you so much. My name is Sujal Raju. I am the president and CEO of Incubator. Think Tank is part of our series where we try to educate and spread the knowledge that we have, but at the same time invite some experts from the industry so that they could share some knowledge. And we all gain from it and create some new innovative products and solutions for the future. I basically lead the team in terms of technology and try to encourage our team to be more creative and proactive in terms of what's out there, and use those then in our solutions and products that we offer our clients so that we can stay ahead in terms of what's out there and make things more automated and productive for our clients, which is our mission. I'm very proud to be part of this because AI, as you know, is all over the place on news channels and everywhere that you see, and quite a bit of it is already here in some way or fashion that you may or may not recognize. So we are continuing to watch this as it's evolving. We are experimenting quite a bit on our labs in terms of what the capabilities are. Some of these are getting transformed into products that we're going to release soon, and excited to share some information about it, as well as in general discuss what's cooking for AI in terms of not only just the healthcare vertical, but in general in all the other verticals as well, how that's being used. So that's me. John, over to you.
Thanks. I'm John Montenegro. I'm design director here at Incubator. And, recently I've been using OpenAI's API to create personal applications that we use for work. I sometimes use it for artwork too and some personal things. I'm also working with AutoGPT, which automates the GPT request. And I use most of it for work, some of it for side stuff, but I'm curious to know how other people are using it. Does anyone want to chime in on how you're using it, or?
Dr. James, I think you might be on mute. I don't know if you were about to say something.
Oh, I was talking to myself looking for the chat bar, but I've used it to generate drafts of course syllabi for new courses. And if I come across a coding issue that I can't figure out on my own, and I'm increasingly relying on ChatGPT to try to figure out the nuance of the syntax.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. And just before we get into this as well, this is our second part to the series on AI, and we hope to continue this. So in the first part, we kind of did the introduction of what AI is. So we're going to skip that for this, unless anyone has a question on, in general, what AI means and the capabilities of it. Then we followed up with a live presentation at the HMPS conference in April. That was done. And then this is the third part, but really for the as part of the Think Tank series that we have on YouTube, this is really the second part on the AI discussion. I just wanted to see if anyone out here is attending this session, but also attended the HMPS or the first part of this series on AI from Think Tank. If you could please let us know in the chat, just so that we have some perspective of the audience in terms of where we should start this discussion. So I would like for you to just take a moment and reply in chat. If you didn't attend any of those, just say none. If you did attend, just let us know which one. Okay, so far looks like we have new audience. Okay, well then that's good. So I would say, should we start with what artificial intelligence is? How do you access it, and how you can use it right now, right? Or is everyone, And by the way, the format of this webinar is open, so you're more than welcome to raise a hand, and we'll pass it on to you so that you could speak and let us know. Because obviously the number of attendees, we like to keep it short, so we can make it more interactive. So just let us know if we should go over on that. If not, I'll start with an update from April as to what has happened since April and now in AI, and then we can from there on go and discuss the next topics. Does anyone want to know, just a brief introduction on what AI is? Okay. All right, so we have one of our attendees asking for it. So I'll just go over it really, really quick. Artificial intelligence simply means that you have a program that is capable of analyzing and then making decisions based on that data. The reason that this is called artificial intelligence is before this, the only other, I would say, capable organism, known to be able to do this is humans, right? We are able to look at the data and then be able to analyze it, and then based on that, then predict or make some decisions. And this is quite a bit of an achievement by computing power in terms of doing this. And it's not that AI just came about in the last 1-2 years. It's been around from the beginning. And I would say in the last 10-15 years, it has gained a lot of steam. But more recently, OpenAI or ChatGPT, which is their product, kind of put a very big focus light on it. And it became mainstream, and everyone started getting noticing it and be able to access it. And the difference of what happened in the last 1 year compared to all the years before that is this is the first time that someone has put an interactive UI in front of the AI. Otherwise, AI was more of a program, a complex program that was written and was capable of doing one specific thing that you would put a task on it, and then it would accomplish that. But basically, what has happened here is that the OpenAI folks, put it out there for the public and put a UI, a user interface in front of it so that you could now access it and kind of interact with it as if you would with any other person. It is capable, obviously, of knowing the language and understanding the sentiments and how you would type in terms of what's called as a prompt. It's similar to a chat. So you type in what your question is or what you're trying to do. And then once you press the post or the go button, basically AI takes a look at that. And from all the information that it has been fed on, it then uses that to provide you the best possible answer to your question or what you're trying to look for. How was this capable? Well, it was capable because it has been fed quite a bit of data. Think about encyclopedia and any information that's out there. So in this case, ChatGPT was fed all the information from the internet that was publicly available. And I believe if this has changed, I don't know, but I think it was all the way until 2020 or 2021. That's the amount of data, the year 2021 or 2020 is the amount of data that was fed. It takes enormous computing power to be able to, analyze all that data. And the second part is generative. It's a language model, which means that it's capable of understanding the language and understand the syntax and everything, and be able to produce a model out of that in terms of an algorithm to understand what's being said. So if you give it a white paper or a case study, it's able to gather everything from it and be able to understand what's being told there. It can ignore things that are not relevant or repetitive and just gather the main context of that data. So what does that mean? This means that it's capable of answering majority of the questions. The most recent ChatGPT 4, 4.5, or even 5 that's going to come out. For example, one of the things that was being advertised is that it's capable of reading the entire tax code, and literally you could use it as your tax consultant. So you can put in the questions or put in the information, and then it can actually fill in your tax, right? Now this is experimental, but still found to be very, very capable, meaning, it's able to, so if you were to go to an experienced CPA or chartered accountant, there is a slight possibility due to human error that they may forget something. They're quite experienced, so they can analyze and they'll be able to, advise you of a very good, things that you could do for your tax. But in this case, the AI it can use its computing power to actually know everything that's out there in the tax code, word by word, and then utilize that information to make sure that your taxes are filled appropriately, or for you to know everything that's available to you so that you could use that for properly filing your tax returns. So this is just a glimpse of it. The other aspects of this is using this to generate images, generate content for your blog posts, for your website, for your research articles. There has been some news and articles in the news that says that students are using this to cheat for their assignments and other things. And then there are counter AI programs that can actually look at any content that has been produced by AI and be able to find and tell you that, hey, this is kind of like a litmus test to tell you that, hey, this content that you've given is actually produced by AI. So sort of something that could be used to identify if someone is cheating, for their assignments and things like that. But for the most part, we're going to focus on what the capabilities are. And just to give you an update, so ChatGPT is something that I'm sure like most of you are familiar with. If you haven't, it's open for all. All you need to do is go to chatgpt.openai.com, register for an account, and then be able to use that free account to be able to start questioning it or creating what's called as a prompt, and seeing, kind of kick the tires and see how that works. Now, be aware that all of these AI models that are out there for public are actually experimental. And plus, they advise you not to put any kind of secure data or personal data in it, because it's possible that it will be used for logging and open for others to be able to see it to improve the AI model. So just be careful with that. Now, having said that, there are proprietary models coming out. For example, Microsoft has released what's called as a Copilot. I'm not sure if most of you have heard about it. If not, please look into it. It's called Copilot. And they're trying to introduce that in every Microsoft product that's out there. It talk about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and for those of you who are in programming, Visual Studio, DevOps, and other areas. And similarly, all the other, like I would say, competing companies like Apple, Google, have also started doing that just to stay competitive. So, for example, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Gmail, and other programs also have some flavor of AI already available to you. And the most recent announcements came out of Google I/O, which just recently happened, I would say about 2 weeks ago or something like that, then followed by another Microsoft update, and then followed by the Apple update in terms of what they're doing. For those of you that probably missed or attended the Apple session that just happened 2 days ago, I think, John, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
where they announced the headset that's coming out. It's a very expensive headset, but there's their entry into the AR, VR world, which we have been researching as well in terms of the mobile 5G capabilities and utilizing that to augment, to an augmented reality or virtual reality applications that are helpful for a lot of things. For example, if a patient walks into a hospital, how they interact with the hospital. I mean, right now, what I would say traditionally, it has always been that they walk up to the help desk and ask them like, okay, how do I get to this department? Or like, I'm here to see this, or I'm here for this appointment. What do I do? Whereas, providing these apps where if it's an app that they have downloaded already on their phone, how they can interact, and it can basically guide you up-to-date information. Think of like, you're in a cockpit and it's actually giving you all the information. It already knows that you're there. It already knows what appointment you are here for. It already knows, where you should be, which floor, all the specific information that you would need, and it can guide you all the way through so that, you can be given the best customer service for you to be able to, have the best experience for whatever service you were there for. So these are some of the things that are quite exciting. There is just enormous amount of possibilities of how you can use AI, into what you're doing. So with that, I think Dave, if you want to, I don't know if you want to start. John, I'll open it up to you if you want to say something beyond that. If not, we can go to the question and answers or the format for this AI.
Well, we can go to Q&A, but I just wanted to add that although there is a lot of potential, there is a lot of concern. There's like implicit bias, fake news, there's privacy issues. People are concerned about job displacement. Also, like the sense of loss of control. People are sort of concerned about what happens if, AI gets a little bit more advanced, that kind of thing. And you mentioned earlier, Sujal, about plagiarism and cheating in colleges, and I'm seeing a lot of articles about that too. So, and copyright issues, especially with images and artwork and even content. They're pulling it into GPT, let's say, but they're not actually giving copyright things to that content. So there's that issue involved, and there's also an issue about regulation. Like, how do we should we regulate it? I mean, or can we regulate it? That kind of thing. So, but
That's right.
too.
And just to follow up on that, I feel like regardless of where this is going to go, each one of us should get involved and get experience on how to use it. It sort of is like Google, right? When it first came out, and each one of us can perform the same search for the same keywords, but yet if you're good with knowing how to query Google, you may get the result in the first few top links, or you may have to perform 2 or 3 searches to get what you want. So I feel like the more we understand what's called as prompt engineering, which means that the right way of asking AI, you can actually expedite what you're trying to do by minimal number of prompts that you put in and get what you want. So I think the more you use it, each one of us, will get better at how AI is working, how to query it and get results faster with that. And I also believe that everything that we see around us or where we are in terms of technology and advancements that we have made as humans it's a sum and collection of everything that has been done from the beginning, right? From the first time a telescope was invented to a microscope or any of these. I mean, if we were to be too worried about copyrights and things like that, I'm sure like if people misuse it and claim that that work is original and theirs, there's obviously some issues with that. But in general, I think that the knowledge and everything that's been taught in our universities and everything like that is all that has been previously developed so that we can advance from there. So I feel like if the information is available through AI like this, we should use this for the positive, for advancements that we can now achieve much faster than what was capable of, what we were capable of achieving in the past, I don't know, 1,000 years or whatever. So I feel like we could use this to our advantage for that. But having set the stage in that way, I feel like we can proceed, Dave. I see that you're there. Please go ahead with the format. If you need to answer any questions, we can
Oh
start.
no, you've absolutely you've already addressed a number of things. Interesting to see what everyone's doing right now and concerns. I'm sure there's lots of concerns out there, as Sujal mentioned. And speaking of tools, John, I know you've been using a lot of tools, design-wise, content-wise. If you could touch on some of those, and then maybe we could open up and see, to everyone and kind of see what ideas and what tools everyone else has been using.
Well, from a design perspective or from a UX perspective, I don't really use a lot of tools. I actually just use OpenAI's API, and I just write my own applications to mostly for UX purposes, for user data analysis, to get insights, to get sentiment. We had a case where we were working with a college, and we had close to 800 user feedbacks, and some of it was quantitative data and some of it was qualitative data, and the qualitative data was actually in different languages. So we have a team of people that do the legwork and digest all that data, but at the same time we use AI to see how it analyzes the data, and then we compare both of them. So, and we talk about like how the insights from the data that we get from the users, and we talk about what next steps would be or how we can improve a user interface and things like that. So that's how I've been using it. I personally been using it for interactive art. I do a lot of interactive art. The present project I'm working on is like a move detection from a webcam, and then GPT could make a prompt against that kind of thing. So that's what I've been using it for.
Yeah, does anyone would anyone like to share any thoughts or any tools or any current uses out there right now?
I'll give a few that I use almost daily, and that's like if there is a story or a lengthy article, a research paper that has been done, and you want to get some ideas from it, what I have been able to do is copy the URL of that article and basically post it in ChatGPT and say like, can you give me a 2-paragraph summary of what content is over here, right? And it gives you a quick overview of what that is, whether it's a news story or research paper or something like that. So it's kind of nice to get that, and then that, all right, this is the article I want to read, right? So if there is quite a bit of sources that give you information on a relevant topic that you're looking for, so this kind of helps you like, all right, this is the one that I need to look at. That's one. The other, I think, is the email programs. It's a soft one. It's not necessarily the ones, and I'm sure like Grammarly was one of them that had already started this a while ago. But basically, the Microsoft's Copilot actually helps you get the mood, analyze the mood of the email, and then what you're trying to say. So as you type in a few keywords, it's then kind of allowing you to get options on what the next few words would be. So that sort of is some of the things that are like quite available.
Yeah. Any other input from any of our attendees today? Any specific tools that are being used or uses real life uses, I guess, out there in your markets, in your industries.
I think so. I saw Catalina said like she could have been using. I don't know if she wants to say something.
Catalina?
Hi, yes. No, we actually in my company for marketing, we have not used AI up until now. This is why we are attending these webinars to kind of get more knowledge on it and see how it can benefit us within marketing. We do work a lot with healthcare industry, and because there's such delicate content that we work with and information for
Yes.
patients and doctors and medical companies, it is very iffy for us to just dive into AI. So the more information we can receive, then the better.
Yeah, that's
know,
pretty good. And Catherine, are you working on the agency side, or are you actually working for a system, providing system?
No, I work for a marketing agency. We're based in Miami. We don't only do healthcare, but healthcare is our biggest client at the moment. So we have hospitals, we have different dental offices and stuff. So again, that's why we have like very private information from our clients, from the patients, doctors, and stuff. So AI is a little bit timid for us to use, considering that we can't or have to be very careful with what we put into the system.
I have to agree with you. Sujal could attest to this. We come from a healthcare background and we do a lot of hospital websites. And from a UX perspective, when we get data or any kind of data, we usually clean the data first. So we want to make sure that there's no HIPAA compliancy involved in that. And then that's why I write my personal scripts, because I don't like putting it on the public GPTs. So I write personal scripts, and then I'll run prompts against that particular data. So, but I do understand your concern with that. But it is a big issue because there is privacy and things like that are involved, and you got to think about those kind of things when you're making prompts against user information or even marketing information. So
Yep. And to add to it, there are options available, and this thing is obviously evolving and evolving pretty fast in terms of the direction that it's going, Catalina. And I would say, so there is options from Microsoft. So if you subscribe to their Office 365, then you basically are in your account, right? And that information, just like any other document that you would put on, on your Office or SharePoint or Teams, just like that, it's all your information that is, has the privacy settings or firewalls to limit who else can see it. And similarly, Amazon AWS just, I would say, on Tuesday released a bunch of APIs that are available from Amazon that you could use to access the same kind of capabilities like ChatGPT provides from OpenAI. But again, more so in a private domain that you can do it. And as John mentioned, like over here in Incubator, you don't have to use the language models or the AI capabilities that are on the public. We actually have created our, downloaded and created our own AI models and then script towards that. So the data and everything is in our, in our space. The software for anyone else out there, AI could be used in the public domain. For example, obviously you have to be very careful what you're putting out there, but you could say hey, I'm writing content for a specific condition. Can you possibly give me ideas on what the title of the page could be, right? Or you could say all right, here's my article, but can you give me some SEO keywords or reformat this in a way that is more conducive for the Google and other search engines to be able to read and get the context out of it, something like that. But analyzing something that's private or something like that is definitely not something that you want to do on the public AI. But you could use AI capabilities that are available through Amazon and other subscriptions that you do, which provide you your own kind of domain space. Then those are fine.
And Sujal, one quick thing, you talk about concerns or out in the healthcare world. We have a number of people here today in the healthcare field. Anything specific in that field with Incubator's experience, knowledge we could share there?
Yeah, so we have been experimenting in the last few months, I would say since probably later part of last year, in using AI for something. I wouldn't say it's healthcare specific, but it is definitely one of the things that is of a concern on many of the websites and mobile apps. Content is everything, and how fast you can give the information to the consumer all depends on how well your search engine is working, or the content is written in such a way or formatted and organized on your site so that it's very helpful for that content to be exposed and people be able to discover that easily and come to your site, right? It's all about, for healthcare marketers, it's all about marketing your content and putting it out there so that more and more consumers can come to your site or your campaigns and understand that, hey, you are a global leader and why we should, come to you first, that sort of a thing. And so we have been experimenting with search engines. Traditionally, it has always been where you type in a keyword. And once you put a keyword, it matches the keyword, and any page that has that keyword shows up. And the algorithm used to be that if a keyword appears X number of times, then that's the page that you want, and that's the page that would show up as the first. But with AI, what we are trying to do is with Physician Finder, which is again bread and butter for the hospital sites, one of the main components of a healthcare website. We are using AI models to be able to look at physician bios, be able to create enough modeling behind the scenes so that you could now chat with the final doctor rather than searching or performing some keywords. A good example or a good challenge has always been that, all right, so I'm looking for a physician that does this, but I don't know that there is another alternative to it. And I have a physician that's right next to us in my preferred hospital that I would like to get, to go for this procedure. And all of that would be missed. And you would only get that information if there was a clinical intervention by a nurse or someone that you called from the help desk and tell them, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And they would say, like, hey, you know what, there is an alternative treatment or a service that you could do, and it's the same thing, and this is new, and you should look into that. But with AI, we are thinking of using that information to give them better information and better options, so that we increase the percentage of conversion, which is obviously the what the target goal is. So that's some of the things. Content writing has come up quite a bit, and I think it should be used for the softer things right now, like I said, the SEO keywords, the title searches, and other things, or just to give you ideas of what to talk about, but not necessarily. It's not like you put it on autopilot and say, like, all right, here's my website, go ahead and write content for everything, right? I don't think we are there yet, and plus it is known to make some big mistakes in terms of describing very confidently a particular condition or treatment as if it knows exactly what it is, but in reality it was related to something else, and it writes it with such confidence that you can't really grasp it unless someone thoroughly looks at it. So with that, like, if it has written hundreds of pages of content, would you then have time to go over everything, read and confirm and alter? And then was that more productive versus you writing them in the first place? So these are some of the things that are to be considered. Now, not saying that this is going to get a lot better. That's for sure, right? So this is going to get keep improving, and future we don't know how that will be, but I don't think we are there at this point.
James, is there anything specific in your world at UAMS that you've been using or comes into play here? Sorry, Dr. James, I'm sorry.
Well, As I mentioned before, mostly I use it to help with coding. I'm very proficient in MATLAB coding, but our lab is moving toward Python, and I find myself in situations where I know exactly what I want to do, but I can even write in MATLAB code, and put it in there, and it'll say, turn this to Python, and it spits out a reasonable, it works. And it's also a great learning tool because I can go through the code and say, okay, this is what I was doing wrong. This is how I need to do it going forward. So I guess I do have a question. I've been using ChatGPT. I'm not familiar with these other like OpenAI. Like, how does one get access to those? Are they proprietary? Do you have to download it, or is it also? Is there any more information about how to access other AIs?
Well, there is. I don't know if Sujal, you want to speak to it, but
Oh, go ahead, John.
AutoGPT, and since you're familiar with Python, it is a Python app. You can download it. The interesting thing about AutoGPT is that it's a Python app. You set it up. You have to have Python installed in your computer. But once you set it up, it's interesting because it's sort of like an automation of GPT. So what you do is you set certain goals. And then after you set the goals, you set, of course, there's tokens, and then you have to set the price limit on your tokens because AutoGPT uses GPT. So, and then there's tokens involved. But once you get that set up, you can say something like, what I did an experiment when I said, find me a specific bumper for my car, go to Amazon.com, find the 5-star ratings and give me the top 3 ratings of the bumpers and download a file to my computer. And I just let it run, and that's what it does. So it kind of makes you set goals, and it automatically does that for you, and it just runs in the background. So that's another way of doing it. And there's something called GPT for All, which is an open source GPT, which runs kind of local. That's another one, but that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I would say, like, those of our audience who have access to IT teams or developers, nothing like actually running a ChatGPT kind of a program like John mentioned internally, right? Because that's the most secure, because the information is not going out. But if you don't, and the other option, if you have developers but don't have the infrastructure to run it, in-house, is utilizing the cloud. So Amazon, Google, and Azure, all 3 of them have services where you can use their APIs to be able to do this. And then the last option, if you have not the infrastructure or the resources, technical resources that can help you with that, there is always the option to use Office 365, which, if you subscribe to it and you have access to Microsoft products, then they are releasing what's called as the Copilot, and you could utilize that, and all that data stays actually within your domain. And but that is something that's at a premium right now, and maybe I haven't checked recently, but until a few weeks at least, it was only available to a selected few customers of Microsoft that they have given access. But eventually, I think it will be available to all. So if you have a licensed product or a license with Microsoft with their Office tools, then you basically will get access to the Copilot. And with that, you could utilize it just like you have been doing. And other alternatives, free alternatives, which are out there, public alternatives, obviously, is Bing, the search engine, that competes with Google. They do have a chat option now. In fact, if you were to use the Microsoft Edge browser, on the far right-hand corner at the top, you do see the Bing icon there. You can click on it and actually interact with it. Now that one is similar to Google search engine, where, if you type in anything, it is possibly used for their own research and analysis. So I wouldn't say it's completely private. However, it's not like they program it or they use it for their proprietary things. So that means that data is not available publicly, for that matter. Other option is Google Lambda, which is also a search powered Google provided tool, which is their option for AI, and you could use it the same way. And apart from these, so these are all the chat interactive tools for creating content and responding that way. But there are several other media capable AI tools. Midjourney is something that comes quite a bit. That's used for creating imagery. So if you're creating some a new research or a new project and you're just looking for some imagery, it can develop some new creative image for you for that. So and there's quite a few other things, like there's things that would create video, animations. If you're trying to create a presentation, there's AI available for that, where it can actually create the slides for you. There's AI available where it could actually create, I would say a computer-driven presentation. So it is voice capable as well as animation, so it can actually walk through an entire story, and it's all driven through AI. So
just to add to that, there's also bar.google.com, and that's an AI thing as well from Google. And what is interesting about that is that it has access to the web. So although ChatGPT doesn't have access to the web, you can go to bar.google.com and make requests or prompts that can access the web, which brings in more options for you to think about. So
as you can say, for those interested, we can wrap up and not wrap up, but we can list out all of these as well and get these into an email to everybody. If those went by too quickly, we'll get those out to you. Catalina, if you're still available there, you mentioned on the marketing side of it, and we get a number of people here on the marketing side of it as well. But are you still there, Catalina?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, a quick question for you: are there any existing workflows on the marketing side that that you think are looking for ways to make more efficient, and AI could help you out?
Well, we have discussed a couple. We do have a lot of different programs that we work with. I don't know if you guys have heard of like Pro Workflow and different platforms that essentially just integrate. For example, if you're using like Google Sheets, Google Excel and stuff like that, instead of using all those different apps, you can just integrate everything into one platform. We're still in the transition of integrating everything on one platform, but because of that, we're trying to see if AI can probably help us in assisting us in integrating all these different platforms instead of having to manually do it ourselves and go back and forth. Maybe AI has some more recognition with deeper thoughts that we aren't aware of. But as far as that, we haven't gotten, like I said earlier, we haven't really touched anything on the AI side just because of trying to prevent the overflow of privacy. We do have to be very careful with HIPAA compliancy. So yeah, that's where we're standing right now.
Yeah, and there is extensions to each of these. As long as there is an API available into the applications that you mentioned, process workflow and other things, you can automate, right? There are several tools available for it. But obviously look into what, not knowing exactly the specifics, it's hard to say what's available that can help. But from what we are seeing, I mean, there is quite a few ways that has opened up in terms of what can be done and achieved. So we are certainly very, very excited about that. But yeah, Google Sheets is another major one where it's capable of using the ChatGPT prompts and using that technology to basically analyze any kind of data that you have. I think there was one experiment that was done where we brought in a lot of data into Google Sheets, and then with just a few prompts, we're able to actually analyze the entire data and create a summary out of it in terms of so basically, historically what has been done is you would plot graphs, and with the graphs kind of create a model of what's expected to happen next. But in this case, we can go multiple layers into it. I mean, that's what the beauty of AI is, that it can slice and dice the data in thousands of parameters, whereas we are probably capable of thinking and asking it in a few areas. But I always bring this example that, let's say if a grocery store is trying to analyze what's the best way in order to maintain my inventory. And if someone goes and says like, all right, let's take a look at the data. If I were to go to the grocery store and buy a bag of oranges and come back, right? So we could look at it in a couple of ways to see like, okay, what did this person buy? Another thing could be like, okay, what was the time that was bought? Like, are people more likely to buy oranges during summer? Are they more likely to buy these during the day, in the night, and things like that? So that is thousands and thousands of parameters that you can put in, and actually AI can automate all of that and then decide like, all right, you need to buy more oranges during this season, and by the way, place them here, in your floor, and that's where the most likelihood of that being purchased. Not only that, if you put apples right next to it, then it's likely that that will also get purchased. So think like that, not just in that example, but think like that in terms of managing content and then creating what we call as an AI-driven navigation. That's something that we are working on right now. How to empower websites so that there is no single navigation that's being pushed out to users, but rather a completely dynamic website where the navigation and everything like that is driven by that information, so that the likelihood of conversion is increased quite a bit. So something
Just
to
to add,
explore.
Google, if you have a Google Workspace account, they're releasing something called Duet AI, which you can make if you have any kind of docs or Excel files in the Google Sheets. They're releasing ways for you to make prompts against those. So that's just something to consider.
Well, thank you, Catalina. Thank you for your input on that. We're already at about 5 minutes to 2, and I wanted to make sure if anyone had any specific questions before we wrap up.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Are things like GPT and Bard, are those becoming easier to access? It's been a while since I tried now, but a few weeks ago, I tried to access both, and I think for both of them, they were giving me messages that they were too busy, or there's like a waiting period before I could access it. Is it becoming a lot easier to access those?
Hi, Nick. Yes,
Hey.
they are. In fact, in the last month or so, they have become like, if you go there, I'm not yet to see a message that says that, hey, we are busy. I would say like, once you log in, I don't know if you're using a Google account or how, if you created an account on OpenAI, but certainly they're quite available now, Nick, because they are adding more and more computing power to it. This is quite different in terms of just performing a search in Google and how many servers are behind that. Think multitudes of that are needed to compute what you're asking for. So, there's a lot of CPUs, GPUs involved in getting this. But that's why OpenAI was an open source company, or I would say an open platform company. But then they tied up with Microsoft, and now it's become for profit. So something to watch out for. But the reason for that is that they just couldn't afford. If they had to grow, they had to buy more computing power, and Microsoft basically said, all right, we'll provide you all the services through Azure and credits from that. And then, basically OpenAI now has access to all the cloud power that they need, or at least what has been allowed by Microsoft for them. And that has, definitely increased the capacity with quite a magnitude. So you should be able to get in easily, Nick.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's been a few weeks now since I tried, but yeah, I'll give it
I know
a go again.
Are you
It
using
was frustrating, yeah.
or the paid version? Because if you get the paid version, you do get access, a little bit more access.
It was like right when there was a lot of buzz around this stuff that I tried to go and access them, and then Gmail or Google was sending me invites to try out theirs, and I had the same experience with that. So I'm just assuming they're just really busy. a lot of people trying to gain access to that at that time. So I don't recall ever creating an account for Chat GPT. I don't know if at first they weren't
Mhm.
they weren't requiring you to do that, but yeah, it's been a little bit since I tried. So
From personal experience, 2 accounts, and one is unpaid and one is paid. I do notice that the unpaid version, I do get that error message where it says, it's kind of busy, we're limited. But the paid version, I do get more access, and but that's just something to consider. And I have a funny feeling that in the future that's going to happen. It's just going to cost, to access that kind of information. So.
mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like the free version should be enough if you're trying to just experiment with it, Nick. I know exactly what you're saying in terms of the speed, or like, getting that message that, hey, our servers are overbooked and you can't get to it. I think it has definitely changed and we should be able to get in. But like what John is referring to, like the paid version certainly gives you more computing power. So your results are much faster. But if you're just trying to experiment, I think just try that. And like I said, use Bing. Bing has it now where you can use it. And if you're in a corporate account setting, then it also, if they use Azure, then you also should be able to use it. And obviously, Bard that John said earlier, that is also available right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks, Nick, for your question. We're about ready to wrap up. Catalina, Dr. James, for both of you, thank you for your input as well. And as I mentioned, we'll be recording this, editing out what is not needed, and we will post this on our YouTube channel for future access. And as I mentioned as well, we'll try to we'll get all of these tools together in an email out to everyone as well. So thank you, Sujal. Thank you, John.
Okay.
And thanks again, everyone, for participating today in our Think Tank webinar, and enjoy the rest of your afternoons.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Shit.